It now says all streamers are currently busy. Yep, I'm trying to get that to open here. Hold on. So I'm here. I'm just I'm assuming I'm waiting to be let in. Okay, sounds good. Hello. Oops. Yes, I can hear you. I sure can. It says host disabled screen sharing. All right. Here's my screen. Now I have all streamers are currently busy. Can you see me? Oh, that's new. Hi. Okay, so maybe we should get started. 4 refresh is the thing then, I guess. So I'm going to get off of the developer and I will start my session. How does that sound? All right. Bye. Hello, everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties we had going on. I am going to get out of... I am in a Zoom meeting as well with the developers, so we're going to get rid of that. Okay, so now we can get started. Sorry about the technical difficulties. So my name is Angela of Angela's Kitchen, and it's so nice that you guys waited around for me. Today we're going to be making cinnamon rolls, or you might call them cinnamon buns. I'll be running the presentation first, and then I'll answer any questions you might have at the end of the session. If I don't get to all of the questions, I will be getting the chat download, and so I'll be able to answer all of the questions. Or you can email me at angela@angelaskitchen.com. And I'll put all of those into another PDF that I will also add to the session in a week or two. Or I'll put it on my blog in a couple weeks at angelaskitchen.com. So let's get started. So some of you have already found it. To find the recipes for what I'll be sharing, you want to click on the PDF link on your screen below this presentation window, so you can have all the recipes for later. So this is a gluten-free, it's an enriched yeast bread that has a wonderfully soft and tender crumb. And we're going to fill it with a filling made with cinnamon and sugar and brown sugar. The recipe, as shared, does have a basic powdered sugar glaze afterwards that you can put on top. But you'll also find an optional dairy-free cream cheese frosting in the packet if you'd rather use that. The dough itself is very versatile, and I use it with many different types of fillings. You can probably see some of them in the packet there as well. And I shape it in different ways, depending on the holiday or my family's mood. So I'm going to offer some suggestions in this class, but feel free to fill it with your family's favorites and make it your own. So I'm first going to very quickly, because I don't want to lose you guys because of the shortened time, but I'm going to talk about measuring flour. And I find that, and the reason I do that is I find that in baking, and especially gluten-free baking in particular, it's very chemistry-based, very science-based. When you're cooking with a saucepan or a skillet on the stove, you can toss in a little of this or a little of that, and it always turns out really wonderfully. But with baking, it can be a bit more fussy, and you really relies on proper measurements and amounts. So when I publish a recipe on my blog, I try to only put things that worked really well for me that have been tested in my kitchen, but sometimes something that worked really well for me may not work as well for someone else. And oftentimes I find it comes down to measurements, and really with the flours. So, and I used to use weights in my measurements for recipes, especially with flours, but I find most people don't use those and really wanted me to convert it to cups. So that's what I do now. So, but one of the things that happens when you're baking and a recipe doesn't turn out, the first thing you want to ask is, how did you measure that flour? And most of the time I find the method most often used is taking the cup and you're dipping it into your flour container, your gluten-free flour container, and you're either leveling it, or some people just like shake it off and tap it. And that method can be really inaccurate. You're going to be packing down the flour. It's going to add a lot more weight to it. And scooping and measuring in that way can give you a flour cup that weighs about 6 ounces in weight. If you take the flour and you stir it first and then spoon it into your cup and level it, you're going to get about the right weight for a cup of flour, which is 4¼ ounces. So that can be a really huge difference in baking. If you have a recipe that has 3 cups of flour, that can add almost 3/4 of a cup of flour to your bread dough, and that's going to be a huge difference in how your recipe turns out. It's going to change your texture, and it's going to be really dry, and nobody wants a dry cinnamon roll, so don't do that. So what I'd like to do is, again, in order to not have to measure and weigh the flours, you want to stir it up. Oh, I should tilt up my screen. Okay. Hi. You want to stir the flour, and okay, so I stir any kind of the gluten-free flours, the rice flours or anything like that, and then I'll spoon it in, and then I'll level it off the top. If you're measuring any of the starches, those really, really settle. So I use a whisk, and then I go in, and you don't have to put I don't put a lot of air into it, but you just want to run a whisk back and forth through cornstarch or potato starch, just to lift it a little bit, because gravity is going to pack that down a little bit. So run your whisk through it, scoop it into your flour with a spoon, excuse me. I got all nervous when I couldn't show. And then just level it off with your knife. You have like a really flat edge. And that's how I measure. And that is going to give you a much more accurate way to measure your flours, so that you don't need to use a scale if you don't want to have one. So the other thing that someone had asked earlier is that I have a lot of recipes that use kind of unusual flours, and I do break my flour things down, my flour mixes down in blends. And the reason I do that is that a lot of people can't have all of the different flours that are going to be in a standard flour blend. So if you can't have corn, I want you to know how much cornstarch was in it so that you can replace it with arrowroot. If you can't have sorghum or potato, I want you to be able to replace the amount that you need to make the recipe work for you. That being said, I know a lot of people like to use a blend. So I did test my recipe with blends, and I used 2 different ones. I used the Bob's 1-to-1, and I found that when you use this recipe with this blend with my recipe, you did need to add 1 or 2 tablespoons more flour to give it the right texture. It was just a little soft, and it was a little more difficult to work with, but it still worked out all right. Then the other one I tested was this one here, Namaste brand, and I found that at Costco. So I used that one, and that one worked perfectly, the right amount of measure for the flour blend that I have in this recipe. So that is what I actually used in the video that I'll be showing you. So the next thing I did want to talk about is I do freeze my dough ahead, and I do that all the times. Oh yeah, she's saying she's surprised about my cups instead of measurements, and that's because a lot of people don't use them. I do use measurements, most commonly, but I find maybe 1 or 2 people who use measurements that write to me, and everybody else wants cups. That's why I don't use that. I try to give you the best measurement that'll be as equal to that. About a cup will be about 4¼ ounces of the gluten-free flour. So that'll help you if you want to convert that to measurements, or you can email me and I'll send you the weights. So I was saying, sorry, that in order to freeze them ahead, once I've shaped the dough into my roll, I'll cut them and then I'll put them on a pan with a plastic wrap or with a Silpat or a parchment. And then I'll freeze that right away before they raise, while they're still not risen, when they're just still really small. And the reason I do that is because then later on, when my kids come home from college, or if I feel like it's Saturday and I want cinnamon rolls, the night before, I can pull the frozen doughs out, put them in an oil pan, put my frozen bits in there, cover it with plastic wrap, pop it in the fridge, and the next morning it's going to have risen. It's going to have thawed, had a nice slow, cool raise, which will really help the flavors develop as well. And then I can bake it off in the morning. So that works really well for me. So if I can make a few extra and freeze them, then I can have buns whenever I want. So I really love that. Okay, so I'm going to start a video, and we're going to walk through how I shape everything. I'll share my screen with you. It wants to share. Here we go. All right. You should be able to see my video now, I hope. I'm going to get that started. I have all my recipes here, are all my ingredients out. You can see I've got my margarine, my non-dairy replacement brown sugar, and the cinnamon. Now with this, you really want to make sure your butter replacement is very soft, room temperature, not melted, but just really, really soft so that everything blends together really, really well. And then see, I can easily press that. So once we're going to mix everything up, you're going to have a nice smooth mixture. Then that will make it easier to spread onto the dough later. The gluten-free dough is a little bit more fragile than a regular one, gluten one. So you're going to want something softer to spread on. So today I'm using Earth Balance as my dairy replacement. You can use the one you'd like. I like that better than most replacements because it bakes up most like butter in a recipe. It doesn't have as much water in it. Doesn't have as much air whipped into it. So it'll be a little more consistent in my baking. You can replace that with coconut oil, but you'll want to reduce it by about a tablespoon so that your recipe doesn't, so the recipe doesn't become oily. And make sure it's very soft so that it mixes in well. All right, so you see we're done with the filling. It's really smooth, and we're going to set that aside, and we're going to make the dough. Oh, you only see me? I've shared my screen. Okay, I am sorry, but it does not seem to want to run. Let me check what is going on here. I apologize. I have this very fabulous video for you. Trust me. I was watching it the whole time. Let me take a picture. Smile, everyone. We'll get that sent. My screen does not share. They saw it for a minute. I am so sorry. Let's see what they say here. I'm going to let them know. All right. Can you still see me? At least you have my recipes. If you're wondering, I do have a flour blend, flour in there that is a little harder to find. It used to be a lot more available back when I started being gluten-free. It's called fava flour, and that's a combination of garbanzo beans and fava beans. You can find it from Bob's Red Mill, and you can find it from Authentic Foods has it as well. So yeah, I know we can't see the video. I'm trying to share the screen and it's not doing it. There is a red box of doom. So sorry about that. So what I'm seeing is a red box of doom that says the streamers are currently busy. So we'll see if we can get that to go again. It was working for a second and then disappeared. So one of the things that I do know, if it gets really difficult, they will reschedule the session, and everyone will get notices about when we run it. And I will probably be less flustered than I am now because it couldn't go. And you'll get an invitation to the new time at that point. And then if you can't see it, it will be recorded. And so you'll be able to see that. So yeah, if anybody, I can't actually see anybody's chats anymore because it's frozen too. So if you guys have anything for me, you let me know. I'm going to refresh my screen one more time and see if that works. I am so sorry. All right, so I'm going to, oh, nobody can see that. So you'll get an invite to that new one. All right, so everybody will get an email with a new time that we are gonna play the new video time, the session. This is so funny. Okay, so I'm sorry, but at least you guys can download the packet, and then I'll see you guys later, and I'll show you a whole bunch of ways to shape your dough and how to handle the dough and what it should look like when you make it. So I'll see you later. Bye. If I can end the session. Which I can't do. So I guess we're just gonna sit here, talk to this. They did say that you should look online. The new schedule will be on there, and that you also will get an email. So we will see you guys then. I'll see you guys later. Bye. I have a blooper reel now. This is so great. Yeah. Me and the Muppets, blooper reels. It's great. I can't seem to be able to get out. Oh, that was crazy. Oh, funny.